Hi, welcome to, I guess, what is this? This would be the third episode of the Chewing the Breeze podcast?
This is number 3.
This is number 3, when it actually feels like number 10 or 15 or something, because we've had a couple false starts that we're still, but this is the full false start. Wait,
This is the true start. Finally,
the true start, the true
this
ending.
is the third.
This is like video games where you have to play the game 3 times to get the true ending.
Yes, and this is it. We made it.
But yeah, hi, my name's Doug. This is our video game podcast where we talk about whatever we really feel like. Mostly video games, and mainly because that's like my entire existence on this planet.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to put me on the spot and say, hey, what would you want to do a podcast on? I would probably have to say video games. I play more video games than I do most anything else. So, like, once upon a time it might have been martial arts. Once upon a time it might have been. I did a little bit of anime discussion, like at one point or another, but I did not keep up on everything like I thought I would. So,
But what is your name?
anyway, do I have a name? That's so weird.
I mean,
No,
I will
my
gladly just keep on going on and have you be this nameless figure, and I will never say your name ever again.
Oh, okay. No, my name is Steve. My foe's the toaster. I stream on twitch.tv. You can find me anywhere that my foe's the toaster is, like Twitter or whatever. But there might be character limits, but that's beside the point. I tell you, I am so happy that we're getting here because I think you already might have mentioned it, but maybe it was off mic. We basically started the Chewing the Breeze idea with the idea that it was going to be a book club series, and we were going to play through Trails in the Sky, Legend of Heroes, Trails in the Sky, first chapter, as our book club idea. And we did all that, but we also were thinking, this is hard to do, like in terms of like making sure that we keep the ball rolling and all that. So we are opting to go with a one thing per episode discussion. And on an episode like this, where we have a big game to talk about, that's all we're going to talk about. No side topics as much as possible, despite the fact that here we are, I'm rattling on.
I like big games, and I cannot lie.
And you other brothers can't deny.
But no, they...
Oh, I should have said you Mario brothers can't deny. Gosh.
When a skinny Wario walks in.
Yeah.
But no, so like it was completely and heavily influenced by which is probably my favorite podcast, Resonant Arc, because they do very similar things. I've actually been listening since I've been driving a lot more, listening to their Final Fantasy 16 podcast, which it's been really, I love hearing their views because I don't always agree with them. I think some of the things they say are a little I don't agree with, but I love hearing the input because they bring a lot of like what's the word, context and like
yeah, they talk a lot about like the history, like the team that worked on it and everything like that.
It's funny they mentioned that because they specifically said they could not do that with Final Fantasy 16 because they find that all the things developers say as going into a game is vastly different what they say after the game is already out. Because right now, everything said about 16 has been them trying to sell the game.
Yeah.
But I also think you would greatly enjoy 16. Even it's not a turn. It is barely a JRPG, but it is such a fun combat game, and the story is so good. The performances are so good.
It's on my list.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always something on my list, though. That's the problem.
Right here.
But anyway,
I know you really can't see it because I'm looking at your screen, but you have to like look at stream and get like a delay to see me.
I did. That did just pop up for me just now. So
yeah, I got the steel book that has like the map of the world.
Yeah. So before we get into the Trails discussion proper,
hold on, real quick. I know I said I wasn't gonna be as like interactive with chat beforehand, but Young Crumpets, I got big shrooms and I cannot lie. You other dudes can't deny when Peach walks in with a blue shroom on her face and you end up giving it a taste, you get shrunk. That was so
beautiful,
good. That was amazing.
Yeah.
But a good thing happened. I've been playing so much. Yeah, I'm sorry. You said a good thing, and I'm like continuing two conversations in my head at once. Yay, ADHD. I've been playing a lot of Yakuza Like a Dragon. I given it like a false start a while back, and now this is like the first time I'm really deep diving into it. And this game, I feel like this game is literally like the main character Ichiban. He's like if I was just like thrown into an RPG. He's like life is an RPG. It's like when I get into a fight, I start seeing everything like Dragon Quest, and that's how they canonically explain why Yakuza Like a Dragon, the like seventh game in the franchise, all of a sudden decided to become turn based. It's because the main character sees the fights as Dragon Quest fights.
The funny thing is that they actually have like a TV trope entry for it. And I think it might be discussing a actual phenomenon called the Tetris effect, where basically like exposure to a game over and over again will eventually start to alter your perception of reality a little bit. Where I think have you ever had one of those bits where it's just like you're playing like say a puzzle game or something like that, and like it's just like, oh, if I line this up, like things start to disappear.
Yes,
and all
it's
that.
called
like,
The Witness.
Yeah, like The Witness would be a good one for that.
Yeah,
one.
no, that game kind of
where you're just like looking up at the skyline, it's just like I can't figure out this puzzle at all. Oh wait,
yeah, that game kind of messed with my great game, one of the best puzzle games I've ever played in my existence. It messed with me a little.
I need to play it proper. It's not a game I want to play on stream, I don't think, because I'm sure there would be someone who pops in and it's just like, oh, well, you have to do this. And it's just like, thanks.
Give it a try. It could be fun to do. I think I did parts of it on stream, and it's like fun just kind of like talking through it. I mean, if you don't want to, you don't want to. That could be a fun game to kind of talk about one day, because it is. What's so weird is like when I watched a friend play it, so many people came into chat and were just like basically like hero worshiping the creator, like, oh yeah, the creator put that rock there because he's a god among men, and that just proves it. I'm just like, oh my god. But the game itself is just so good. There's a little bit too much hero worship for me.
The things I've heard about Jonathan Blow are perfectly interesting, but not.
Is that who?
Yeah, I don't believe. I thought so. Jonathan Blow.
I did not think it was him.
He did the same guy who did Braid, for sure.
What am I thinking of then?
I don't know. The one thing though is that
it is Jonathan Blow.
Cool.
Who am I thinking?
Happy to hear that.
I'm thinking of this absolute asshole video game developer.
Well, on the
Phil Fish.
He did Fez.
Yeah. That's the absolute asshole developer I'm thinking of.
Like my perspective on Phil Fish is that like I think he was quite abrasive, and that is kind of his personality, but like, there was also I don't want to sit up and defend like, a person for like, kind of their worst days, but at the same time, like, he did have a lot of pressure on him, and like, I can't remember exactly what the impetus of everything was. I'd have to go back for it, but like it kind of was just like no one came out of that whole thing like looking good, like
right.
For sure, and that includes like the fans and what have you. But anyway, speaking of something fun that's happened recently, I don't know if you're familiar with Smooth McGroove at all.
Yeah, is that the acapella dude that like puts his head on like 50 different things, and like 3 of them are his cat doing a little jam?
Yeah, he basically does like video game covers, like
acapella, right?
Acapella, recording himself doing any number of different tracks, and he'll bring his cat in because the cat is just the chillest thing, like
I
ever.
haven't heard from him in a while.
Well, that's the thing. He recently did an announcement where he was coming back to YouTube to do some more stuff, and he most recently did Shovel Knight, the oh god, why can't I remember? Propeller Knight, the airship level, like the theme from the airship is what he did, and it's just so nice to see him doing stuff again. So that's something I'm happy
So
about.
I was curious, and I went on to Twitter real quick to look it up, and I pulled up, and it's like, yeah, you're right. It's high above the land, the flying machine from Shovel Knight, and the top comment is the completionist being like, "Glad you're back, man."
Yeah,
The completionist is so freaking chill.
I have had the pleasure of seeing Smooth McGrove, like, you know, at MagFest, like, you know, he was doing a panel or whatever. He is just one of the chillest guys ever. I think he did have to go away for some health relay reasons, but he's back, and I'm so happy for that.
Yeah, that's cool. Oh, so something that kind of for both of us. So if you're watching this on Twitch, afterwards we are going to be playing Wargroove Double Trouble, which is kind of weird, but it's because it's co-op. But Wargroove 2 came out today.
Yep.
And I am so pumped. I freaking loved Wargroove 1. It was actually one of the games that I was the first actual growth either of us experienced on Twitch, I feel like. And it was just it's such a good game. It's like an Advance Wars spiritual successor, I guess is the right term, made by an indie company. I think a different company actually made this game. It was like Robotality or something. It made Wargroove 2. I don't know if it has the same team.
I'm not actually sure about that.
I was seeing it brought up a couple times, and then Robotality is actually we were opening up Wargroove 2 before we started this recording, just to kind of see how we could get into the co-op options, which maybe we can try Wargroove 2. Getting into Double Trouble is similar to how we can get into a co-op campaign for this.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I mean, I know. Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah, I think it's just, anyway. That's that you can ignore all of that. I know. But yeah, so The Legend of Heroes: Trails in the Sky. FC. It's a long
first chapter.
It's a long name, but basically, this is a turn-based JRPG originally released for the PSP way back when. I had the year in my notes somewhere. I think it was Windows and PSP. It was originally released for in Japan. It took a good amount of time to make it over here because of how dense the translation was. And right now you can get it on Steam. It's very cheap. You can often get it for $10 US, which is I think what we got it for way back when. But it's like the 6th or 7th game in the Legend of Heroes franchise. And then it was basically the start of in Japan, Japanese Trails. It's called the Kiseki franchise. What is it? I think it's Sora no Kiseki, Trails in the Sky. And it's a huge franchise. It spans currently 12 games in Japan, 10 of which have been localized into English, and an 11th on the way next summer, which they're kind of grouped into different arcs based on which primarily country they take place into. The first one is the Sky trilogy, which is Sky 1. Sorry, it's Trails in the Sky FC, Trails in the Sky SC, and then Trails in the Sky the third, because numbers was too much.
Yeah. First chapter, second chapter, the third.
Yeah. Then there's the Crossbell duology, which is Trails into Zero, Trails into Azure. And then the Cold Steel quadrology, which is probably the most recognizable entries in the franchise right now.
Probably,
because they got a lot more attention, and it's caused a lot more backtracking into the franchise for people I've known. And then there's Reverie, which is an epilogue, because just in case those first 9 games didn't tell us complete story, Reverie is an epilogue for that story.
Cold Steel was also on a number of different consoles, right?
PSP, PS Vita, PS3, PS4, and they just recently announced that Cold Steel 3 and 4 will be having a PS5 dual release, a double pack.
Gotcha.
They at the same time they announced, which is now the 11th game into the franchise, Trails Through Daybreak.
Yeah,
which is kind of a badass name.
That would probably be the reason why too, because if it was on the PSP and then later got kind of a quiet release on Steam, hard to say that anyone would have really played Trails in the Sky, unless they're already a pretty big PlayStation fan to the point where they're getting the portable console that never really measured up to what Nintendo was doing with their Game Boy, DS, whatever. So I don't know.
Game Boy 3DS. Yeah, Nintendo's kind of had a firm grip on the handheld market for quite a few years. And, I mean, I feel like they've earned that spot.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, so we played through Trails in the Sky, FC, first chapter. And, I mean, just before we get into, like, any of the story stuff, like, and any of the character stuff where basically there's going to be spoiler alerts, like, or a spoiler thing going off where it's just like, yeah, like, don't.
Yeah, so
if you haven't played it yet,
to give a little idea of how we're going to talk this through, we're going to spend the first major part of this discussion just talking about service level things. We're talking about the gameplay, the level design, the mechanics of the game, the music, all these really great things, maybe a little bit of history about the game. And then we're going to give some brief a brief summary of the game, like basically what the first chapter, the prologue of the game is. Give a little bit of insight on the protagonists, Estelle and Joshua. And then we're going to throw a big old spoiler alert. Probably, I don't know, I should have made a little graphic. I'll do it next time.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah. Were you about to put it on your sign behind you, not remembering you had the green screen?
I have the green screen now.
But, yeah, so we're going to go into that and get some big, deep spoilers on it. But,
yeah.
First things first, though, one interesting thing I always found about the Kiseki franchise, and I just want to fact check my notes real quick. Excuse the... Here we go, Trails that. It's part of the Trail series. Oh, I thought I would find it on a Trails franchise. So it's... Yeah, so it was basically kind of like brainstormed by Falcom. It's the games all come from the company Falcom. Toshihiro Kondo considers like this to be his life's work. They wanted to, when they were writing these stories, they wanted to have like a piece of fiction like with huge world building, character arcs on par with like the biggest stories, like the Forgotten Realms of Dungeons and Dragons, like freaking Lord of the Rings, just something like that. They wanted something of that scale, and that's what was kind of like what was the core of the Trails franchise. And we're like, there's 12 games, and while we've only played the first one, but like people have told me that, hey, you know this one character was like kind of like looking for love? Yeah, their arc's still going on. 12 games later. It's like, and it's an NPC. This is somebody that, it's just an NPC. And they keep like using the NPCs and like just bringing all these characters back. And I think that's just so cool, just having like this, and it makes it feel like as many games as there are, it only takes place over like 7 years. Or even probably smaller than that. Hold on. I think, I don't want to look it up again. I looked up a timeline. It's like it's less than 7 years or something like that. The whole timeline from like where the main story of Trails in the Sky starts to the end of Koro no Kiseki 2, where Trails Through Daybreak 2.
I mean, I do know just from what I've seen of like some character designs, a character who's like basically 12 when she's introduced in this game. She is like only like 15 in like one of the later titles. Like, so I definitely think the timeline is pretty condensed in terms of like everything that they're doing.
Yeah, just
and like we can definitely talk a little bit like more about the like, you know, how the first game is basically set up versus like, you know, everything else. Because I mean, like first game opens up on a prologue, and then there's a 5-year time skip, like, you know, before the end of the prologue there.
Is it really a prologue? Do you even really? I don't even remember. Do you even get to play like that?
You don't get
in that beginning part. I think so. I don't really even.
You don't get to play it, but like at the same time, it's establishing like the history and stuff like that. But before we get fully into the weeds of it, like we should probably talk about some of the other stuff, and I guess maybe I'm seeing an incoming ad break.
They just keep going.
Okay. Yeah, like what do you want to talk about first? Like, because like, you know, we could talk about music, we could talk about the mechanics, we could talk about like whatever, like I mean, I guess I would just go ahead and start off and say that the entire game was solid. Like, you know, I don't think there was any part of it that I felt like was lacking. So I find it difficult.
Yeah, you're right.
So so I'm finding it a little bit difficult to be like, okay, well, where do we start then?
Well, I hate numbered scores for games. I hate that. Like when I look at somebody like reviewing or analyzing or doing anything for a game, like I just want to hear what your honest thoughts are. Scores are just so silly to me because it's like, how do you attach an arbitrary number? Then do you base every game you score after that based on that first number? It's just, that's too much to worry about. I'm just going to say right now, I am thinking you agree with me. If you're a fan of JRPGs and that classic style and the turn-based and you want a great story, some great characterizations, fucking play this game.
Yeah.
All right.
I would agree.
We greatly enjoyed our time with it. So if you want to just get that answer right now and skip and don't have to watch the rest of the podcast, you know what? I get it. So
yeah, like highly recommended. Like it is the first game and a trilogy. You can't just jump into game 2 like without
do not jump into game 2. All right.
Yeah.
I really hate I'll see online, and I think I mentioned this a little bit earlier, probably before we started recording. I hate when you go online and you see people be like, "Oh, you have to start this game." Like I was just talking earlier when I was about playing Yakuza Like a Dragon. That's the 7th game in the franchise, and that's my first Yakuza game. I don't care. Yakuza 7 is a good entry point because it's a new. I know past characters and stuff make appearances, and like. The old game still matters, but this is like a soft reboot. This is designed to get more people into the franchise.
Yeah.
Trails in the and we're gonna without getting a spoiler. Trails in the Sky 2nd chapter. We haven't started it yet, but I have no clue how you could be able to play that without playing first chapter and not have the emotional impact that I am sure is going to be in there because, spoiler alert, at the ending of first chapter, we jaw dropped.
Yeah.
But that's all we're going to say about that until the latter part of the podcast. I believe that is just like a little tease.
Yeah. So I guess music. Excellent music. Yeah, I enjoyed it very, very much.
It had like almost like a jazz peppy kind of thing. Like the battle thing was like bum 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 bum. And it had like a nice groove to it. I found myself listening to it a lot at work. Yeah, just kind of like doing my tasks and just kind of bopping along.
I will say that I like the regular battle theme more than I liked the regular boss theme. They later introduced another boss theme that I liked a lot, which was specifically for some of the mysterious organization that you were coming to heads with. More on that in a little while. All the town themes were all the town themes were very, very good. Like I was like, it felt like I was in that mechanical town. It felt like I was in that quiet, podunk village sort of situation.
So I feel like we can't praise the music this much without just going on to say the composers of this game were Hayato Sonata and Wataru Ishibashi. I do not know what other things they worked on because, unfortunately, I am not great at research. I can't click on them on Wikipedia, and I don't want to keep having my loud mechanical keyboard pop off every time I'm trying to search something, so I'm trying to underuse it as much as possible.
Yeah.
But the music was absolutely astounding. There was never a theme where I was like, I hate listening to this. This is boring. I'll say, honestly, the most boring part of the game was the opening cinematic before, when you open a game, you usually get a pretty fun cinematic. It was basically here's this character looking sad. Here's this character, but with a smile. It was just kind of boring to me.
Yeah.
But that's such a non-issue. I whatever.
I keep thinking, was there at any point where the music was actually grating to me? And I don't think so.
Not that I know of. Yeah, there's never any moment where I was like, get this music out of here. Let me just turn off this music. I'll admit sometimes I wasn't listening to the music because I was kind of playing it as watching streams, so I just kind of had the game on silent.
Yeah, I typically when I play, I'm usually closing out of everything else, just so I can focus in on everything going on.
Maybe that's why it took me so long to play.
I don't know. I think you still finished it before I did.
So. Oh no, I 100% finished it before you did because I was sitting there in your streams just going like, all right, is he at the part? Is he at the part? And I hate being those people, but I was that freaking person for this game.
Yeah.
Going on like so. Speak so grading. You were saying like the music was never found grading. One thing people will usually have issues with turn-based games is sometimes the turn-based system itself, in between encounters, will become grating. Did you find that ever happen to you?
Like the
actual act of like fighting, like having to use the turn-based system. Because I can think of only one time it did, and it was during a boss fight in the 3rd chapter of the game.
I think there was only like 1 or 2 battles where I was just like, okay, this is starting to disagree with me somewhat. Yeah, but it's also because like sometimes the boss battles like gave you like a huge difficulty spike.
Yeah, that's fair. So I feel like before we keep going on this route, I kind of didn't think about this. The the battle system in this is like you get like a grid, like a square grid. It was like a decent size, nothing too big. It wasn't like a full on tactics map.
Completely flat too.
Yeah, it was all flat, and you would have to move your characters. So it was like grid based, kind of like a miniature tactics battle. Like you had to move your characters, then have like a range of your attack, and then attack, cast spells. If you decided to cast a art, you had to charge it up, give yourself a few turns. It was all turn based, I believe, based on the speed stat of your characters. Mm-hmm. And you could do like a normal attack, you could use your arts, or you use crafts, which used a separate basically a secondary MP gauge that you gain points in by performing attacks and being hit.
Your arts were basically like your magic, and then your crafts were basically like your skills.
Yeah, but yeah, that's a better way of putting it. That I was not. So yeah, it was very much like it was I thought it was a very good system. I look forward to seeing how it evolves and grows because like this system, they think it was good. It has a lot of growing potential. And granted, I'm saying this as it's a game from 2004. I looked it up while I was on that page, and so like it's almost 20 years ago. So it's had a lot of time to grow into the games that are current. So I am curious of seeing that evolution, because while it was fun, I feel like if I had to play another 10 games with that same exact system, I would not be having as much fun.
I'll go ahead and say this. The mechanics for the arts and crafts system, the magic and skill system, it's not an original concept, or at the very least, or maybe it was original for this, then other games have also pulled it. I know for a fact that Grandia 2 has something kind of similar to it. One thing worth noting with that too, though, is, and this kind of ties into the mechanic stuff, which I wanted to get to pretty quickly here. Crafts, your magic, those are all, crafts, your arts, your magic are all basically equipable, kind of like materia, like from Final Fantasy VII. And you can switch them around to any character whatsoever. Crafts, your skill stuff is always based on what your character, which characters you have. So if you like a particular spell, you could basically get it onto every character, given, spending the right resources. If you like a particular craft, you need to have that character on hand. And one thing that the game does is that you typically, up until the very end, you don't get a choice of which characters you have in battle. You basically always have Estelle and Joshua, who are your two main protagonists, and then the story will basically dictate who is tagging along with you at any given time.
Yeah. So you didn't have a lot of party customization options.
Yeah.
That's it's not. I don't mind that as much if the party is equipped to kind of handle the situation at hand, which I feel like
I feel like one of the worst things.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, one of the worst things that you can do with your RPG, I think, is give you 8 party members, but then you can only ever get use of 3 of them. And not because you don't want to, or not because I'm having a little bit of difficult like elucidating on it. It's kind of, I feel like it's a little bit of a waste of space if it's just like, oh well, you have these 5 characters, but you're only ever going to use these 3 because these other 2 just aren't interesting at all, aren't worth using it. Blah 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 blah. So
yeah, that's fair. Also, while you were talking, I realized something. I was wondering the whole time. This like one thing I was kind of wondering, why were they called crafts?
to fit with the arts theme because it's
Yeah, that's what I just figured out. Is because arts and crafts. I'm like, God dang it!
You want to know something funny? I actually literally had that too. But I was like, Doug's probably already thought about that. I'm just going to come back. Like, I'm just going to skip over that on my end.
I just, when you said it together like that, I'm like, that makes so much sense now. And I was like a little upset at myself for never realizing that. And,
if anything, it kind of pisses me off that art is your magic abilities and craft is your
personal skill,
crafter, like your personal skills, because like martial arts, I always assume that's like something that you're developing, and then crafts, like you literally are crafting like the magical pieces that you're fitting into your character. But I digress.
You do digress.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the battle system I greatly enjoyed, and like I do think it could kind of, I do want to see it evolve, like I was saying.
Yeah.
But the level
I think
this game had a system for like party. So we mentioned like party customization. Like you didn't actually have like a lot of options on who was in your party for a majority of the game. You was kind of just like you were given characters and you used those characters at any point. But like with actual character customization, they had this system called the Orbital system, and it was very similar to Materia from Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
But not in a bad way. Like, I mean, you didn't level up the orbs. You just kind of got new ones, crafted new ones, retrieved different ones. And depending on which orbs you put on the characters, that determined which arts you would have. But kind of just only in an elemental way. Like, if you had enough red ones, you got a bunch of fire spells. Blue ones, you got some cure and water spells. So, like, it was kind of just like elemental differences.
Yeah. There was an elemental system in there, but outside of like a few bits where, this enemy is super beefy against like physical attacks, I didn't find myself using a lot of the magic stuff. I think our gameplay
went through the final dungeon with like an all physical party.
I really did.
Yeah, and I could not believe that.
I mean, it's not like it wasn't ineffective though. That was the funny thing.
No, you beat the game. I was just like, okay, this is how you're doing this. Okay.
Well, I mean, yeah, because like I guess that's the other thing. The one thing I'll say about the characters, like in battle and all that too, is that you can basically, I don't think there's really much limitation to what characters you would be able to bring in, like, for the Final Dungeon, because Final Dungeon, you have your 2 main characters, Estelle and Joshua. Okay.
Let's wait on that.
Yeah, fair.
Because for any, just so people are again aware, we're leaving spoilers for the end. And I feel like,
I mean, I don't think it's that bad. Spoiler.
Yeah,
like,
it's just
you have pick of the litter in the Final Dungeon, but still,
it's like a gray area.
The point we're trying to make is you don't have to you don't have to learn how to play it exactly. You can play it multiple different ways.
You don't have to learn how to play the game.
Well, I mean, you don't have to learn in a particular way that the game wants you to play. Like, it's not like, oh, you better learn how to use magic or else you're never going to get anywhere. It's just like, no, you got workarounds.
Never gonna get it.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, so like I have this like little list of things like music, gameplay, mechanics. Probably, honestly, I think the weakest element of the actual gameplay was?
What's that?
Dungeon design.
I can agree with that.
There was just there's a lot of very similar hallways that I could never really find out where I was. Some of them I looked up a map just to kind of help me get through some of the dungeons, just because like everything looked the same. I couldn't really figure out where I was. There was no real dungeon maps. There were city maps which I used thoroughly, and that helped me out a lot because I liked having like a map I could look at.
One thing that would have helped with dungeon navigation in this game is if it gave you a dungeon map, but you filled it in.
Yeah, no,
as you were
I would have loved that.
around.
I would have loved that. I love fillable maps. Those are such a great thing in games because I know how to get back from where I was. I don't need to be like, all right, I got to the end. What the hell was step 2?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of dungeons in this game where they didn't just kind of send you to the front. You had to walk out.
Yeah.
Not a lot. It happened a couple times. Enough times to annoy me, which isn't a lot.
One thing that didn't help too was that there were 2 or 3 dungeons that were functionally like they're similar structures, and it's just basically walk through, get to the stairs, go up, walk through, get to the stairs, go up. Okay.
Now those towers.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's like designing towers like that is kind of like a little bit bland, but again, if that I feel like that's my main complaint.
I got heckin' lost in those. Outside of that, I think that's pretty much all we really want to cover just about the surface stuff of the games, right?
The only other possible thing that was on the tip of my tongue, battle system wise, your skills, like, basically you can position your characters. You can't position your character too much unless you dedicate a move action to it, but your skills basically like do have like attack a bit, like, ranges and like, like, oh, this one will hit every enemy in a line. This one will hit every enemy in an area. So like there is a lot of strategy that can come up, even if it's mostly, okay, I'm just going to run up and do whirlwind.
We didn't talk about possibly the coolest part of the battle system, the S-crafts.
Oh yeah.
So the S crafts basically, so you have your crafts and then you have your S crafts, which super crafts. Duh. It basically, when you build up your craft gauge, if you get over 100 points in your craft points, you could basically just add have a insert, like just go like, oh no, I want to use this attack now, and you use one of your S crafts, and you'd have to designate one of your S crafts to be like the designated one that you like did the interrupt with. Otherwise, you have to wait till your turn to use the other one. But you could just basically get into the action like, oh crap, this enemy is about to come and kill me. Let me use the S craft and just, or I think it was called an S break when you did it that way.
I think so.
And you would just basically like insert your turn into there, do the attack, and usually it was like the ultimate attack of the character, like do massive damage to one character, heal the entire party, hit every enemy with status effects, and just like cool stuff like that. And like it was very, very useful for a lot of the later fights for myself.
No, I got a lot of use out of that as well. Generally, my strategy came down to getting my characters like, S-craft or like craft gauge like up above 100 so that I could S-break at any time. And then mostly just using my craft abilities to keep it between 100 and 200. There is a cap, and when you S-break, it uses up your entire gauge, even if you have 200 and you use the S-break, it drains it. But that's part of the idea. It's just like the fact that I can, you have like an entire like turn order of what enemies are doing what. I see this enemy is coming up. I need to stop them from, a party wipe. So that's where the S-break comes into play, where it's just like, no, I need to get an action in right away and shift like the issue with this battle going on. So, most of the time, like I said, I would use my abilities liberally because the crafts are pretty good for that kind of gameplay. Like, it's just like, oh, I could hit multiple enemies like, in this turn and try to shorten the battle so they're not pounding me like, nearly as badly. But yeah. So yeah, I think that then covers it, unless we suddenly remember something else.
I will say the equipment in the game was just kind of like, equip something that has a higher power. There was no real strategy in the equipment, I felt.
You could maybe get some
like resistances and stuff, or like status resistance.
Every person gets 2 accessories, and you could basically figure something out there. But generally, it was you just got to a new town, go to the item shop, buy the thing that makes your number go up, and just let it be.
Yeah, and that was,
I think,
so it wasn't like the most complex system there, and usually you could find decent stuff just about doing those side quests and whatnot. Which the game had, I feel like this is something we can discuss now. The game had robust side quests to where they were very well written. We probably won't be talking about a lot of them tonight, but a lot of the side quests for the game were very well written. It wasn't just do this, but the stories behind the quests, they were all because you're training to be basically a bracer, which is a version of a mercenary-ish, like a little bit higher class one. I feel how they're describing it.
Yeah.
We'll get into that. But like they were very well written, and you could get good rewards that way. And I did enjoy doing those.
There was also a cooking system, but I did not touch it at all.
I learned recipes that I never used.
Me too.
I think I told you about like the ice creams, and that's basically how I got through the rest of the game.
Yeah, like the ice cream vendor that you pointed out, like the ice cream that gives you like 1,000 health when most of your characters cap at like 2,500 max. It feels like, and then it also gives you 25.
I thought it gave you like 50 CP.
Craft points.
I thought it gave you like 50 craft points.
25 to 50.
It was something like that. It was just being able to go into these hard fights with the craft points already saved up was just sweet.
Yeah. I guess the only other thing worth noting in terms of like the battle stuff, if you get knocked out, you basically lose all of the craft points that you accumulate. You need to res them. There are res spells and res items that you need to use. So if one of your characters gets knocked out, it hurts. So try to avoid that.
That's fair.
Yeah. So I think I'm ready to start getting into the nitty-gritty of the story.
Well, before we get into the nitty-gritty of the story, because we said we were going to do this, let's give a little, like, the quick summary of the game. So, like we were saying earlier, it's a JRPG, turn-based JRPG. It's set in Liberl, which is, what was the whole world called? I forget, they said it, and I just don't remember.
I'll see if I can look it up.
But yeah, so this game primarily takes place in Liberl, and like this is we're going to kind of talk about the prologue a little bit here. We're not going to give a full-on story thing, but we just kind of wanted to give an idea before we got into super spoilers, just in case people wanted to kind of know like kind of like a back of the book pitch of it. You have this man Cassius Bright. He finds this child Joshua, and apparently he was hurt or injured. He brings him home. And there's his daughter, Estelle, and they're both young. I think they were like, 9 or something? 9 or 10, I thought. 9 or 10. And then Joshua stays there, and Cassius raises him just like he was raising his daughter. So, like, they grow up being, like, kind of like pseudo-siblings. Like, he takes the name Joshua Bright. And they are determined to becoming bracers just like Cassius, which is kind of like a peacekeeper. They do jobs. They they're kind of mercenaries, but they're not. It's not just like bounty hunters. Like they're doing jobs to kind of help the realm. They have
you might go to the Bracer Guild in order to I need a favor done for such and such. They
definitely are paid for their services. I don't know. Calling it mercenary work didn't feel exactly right to me.
Mercenary work is probably the closest thing, but they're good-natured mercenaries. They're for the people first and foremost.
Yeah, and they have the respected most places. And Estelle and Joshua become junior bracers, and then go and and after become junior bracers and help the mayor find help the mayor find something stolen. They get a call that their father Cassius has gone missing on his airship trip to Bose, I believe it was.
I think it was, yeah.
To the first city you go to, and you have to go find him. And that's kind of where the game takes off from there. You're going around to the different cities, trying to just learn about the realm and figure out what happened with your fathers. And you get your two characters, Estelle, who like, and we're going to kind of give you our first impressions of these characters because they definitely grew over time, as we're going to discuss later on. Estelle kind of presents as like kind of like the typical perky teenage girl, very battle heavy. She doesn't like doing schoolwork. She very like devout martial artist.
She's a very impulsive and hot-headed.
Very impulsive and hot-headed.
Mm-hmm.
Just but very upbeat, very very blunt. And then you have Joshua, who's more cool, calm, collected, uses like double knives as his weapon, voiced by my personal favorite voice actor, Johnny Young Bosch.
Basically, if there's ever a scene where Estelle is missing something, you can count on Joshua.
Yeah, Joshua is just like
picked up on it, and probably even keeping stuff to himself, like to the chagrin of Estelle, who's just kind of like, wait a minute, how long did you know that? The whole time.
Well, yeah, he's like, you know, when you see something obvious in a game, Joshua's picked up on it. He's just not telling everybody. But they're very. I don't remember ever asking how you felt about the characters from the beginning, but I basically liked both of them a lot from the beginning. I thought they were kind of from this onset very typical, but cliches are cliches for a reason, like because they're recognizable and they work. It's just on how you actually utilize them.
Yeah, I mean, for certain, like, you know, TV Tropes has an article called "Tropes Are Tools," which was also like tropes are not good and tropes are not bad. Like, you know, the entire idea is just like it can be cheesy seeing the same thing over and over again, but it also is a good place to jump off of with context. If you are like, okay, no, this is like, you know, the calm, collected guy, and to see where they go from there. I think they do enough, like with the characters, like even from the beginning though, that even if you're looking at Estelle, it's just kind of be like, oh yeah, she's the hothead and impulsive one and all that. She's still entertaining, like, you know, because I think, like, you know, one of her first scenes, like, you know, after she becomes a junior bracer, is her getting into an argument with a kid who's just like, yeah, well, you know, I bet you can't find my rock or whatever. And it's just like, it's, dummy, here it is, or something like that. Like, so, I mean, I think, like, and having a good baseline for, like, you know, your first couple characters, like, you know, that kind of makes it interesting to explore the other ones. Because I think, again, like, Estelle and Joshua are, like, kind of the more... They fit the generic character mold like the best, like at the beginning, but that's so that they can play around with their concepts, like, you know, far into the game and all that. Because we'll get into like more of the more of the character specifics a little bit later for sure. Because when it comes down to it, like we basically covered the beginning of the story stuff. We have Cassius, a missing father that we have to go find, which again is another trope and all that. So
very tropey.
And we basically have a Pokemon journey. I mean, a Bracer journey to become full-fledged Bracers by visiting all of the Bracer branches in the Kingdom of Liberl. So that's basically your quest. And along the way, you basically find out what happens to the missing airliner. You find, like, do we want to go to like full story beats at this point? Like,
yeah. So, yeah. Do you feel like we need a break yet? I don't think we do. I think we can keep going.
I think we can keep going. Like, I probably want to have a break before we get into like major character analysis. But maybe like the best time would probably be like around maybe chapter 3, maybe, like when we
well, I thought we were kind of just broad stroking all the chapters.
We basically are. That's
because like we both felt like this game was much more about the characters. Like there's major story events that happen, but like they're all very character shaped.
Yeah.
So like that's what we're going to spend more of the time kind of talking about. So let's take a quick break right now, mainly because I'm also out of water. and then we can just go ahead and just blast through the rest of this.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Alrighty. All right. Be right back. I'm not going to put on the break screen or any shit like that.
Okie dokie. And meanwhile, I could show off the fact that I have a picture.
Dick.
Pitcher's almost empty though, so it's not that big of a thing.
Be right back.
Sounds
you can
good.
talk. There might be an ad running, but
there is currently an ad running. But you know what? People need to hear my robot voice. I think that's one thing I need to. That's one thing I'll maybe look at doing, like, because I don't think I have the same issue with Discord stuff when I'm trying to stream, but maybe I do. It's been a while since I've streamed with people on my channel with me, though, because when I was doing it, I was trying to put their gameplay up on screen too, which was always kind of fun. But what happened recently, like what happened after one Discord update or something like that, is the fact that Discord would constantly keep freezing, and you might see it happen if like Doug like clicks away from Discord on something, because you'll probably see me kind of start to yeah, it's just kind of like that. So yeah, like but I think the only time that like I get the robot voice is seemingly when I get hosted on, like, while Doug is also trying to stream it. So don't know if it has something to do with like the fact that he's capturing video too, because my first theory was that, oh, it's picking up from another source or something. No. Or it could be that it's because I'm also doing Audacity. I don't know.
What are you talking about?
I decided to go off on a little rant about like why I sound like a robot and some possible explanations for it. One thing I was kind of thinking is maybe I can host one of these and see if we run into the same issue, because I'm thinking it might be most to do with Audacity.
But not sure. But yeah, so I'm gonna give it another 54 seconds, but
yeah,
no, we're gonna just to get into that. Do I have my spoiler thing here, or did I make something? Can't remember if I did or not. Nope.
I don't remember you saying you did.
I just couldn't remember if I had something that I made before. So I was kind of like turning on and off things that were in the background. But yeah, so got this, got that, some of my character guides right there. That's bookmarked. Dude, I have fucking 5 pages of Sea of Stars. Sea of Stars. Not even Messenger, just Sea of Stars notes.
I didn't really take any notes on it, actually. But I do have like a letter or like a paper in an envelope that I put in there, like, the day it was released, with some of my predictions on it. I think I was absolutely correct about one, except it was also...
Are you saving that for our actual discussion?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I'm glad you are. I was like, if you're not telling me already, you're just saving it for the discussion, which I feel like is the case. Yeah. Cool. All right. So we're going to be going right back into it. Big spoiler warning right now. If I had it, I would have just go ahead and put it on the thing. Spoiler alert. We're just going to go full on, not caring about any events within the first Trails in the Sky's first chapter. It's all on the table. And we're just going to kind of go through. We're going to start pretty much where we left off. We're not going to go super deep into like each individual event and what happened to each person as we go through the story, because I feel like we both want to spend more time actually analyzing the characters themselves. but we feel for like character analysis, and we'll, like if certain events pop up during our character analysis, we'll go into detail.
I mean, story wise, we could probably just kind of say it like prologue ends with like, you know, Cassius has gone missing on the airliner that turns out that they're like sky pirates, sky thieves who stole them. We encountered one. We encountered another one at the end of chapter 1 where we find the airliner, but Cassius is nowhere to be found. But we do have something. He did leave us like a little parcel that says, "Yeah, I have to disappear for a while." So
yeah, that's pretty much the length at which I was going to do most of these. So yeah, that was
Yeah.
chapter 1, which I was also going to kind of mention the party members we meet along the way.
Yeah.
So like
that's a good way to do
during
it.
all those events that happened, where we kind of track down the sky pirates, find the missing ship, and discover that Cassius wasn't actually on the ship and he had left a package for us. We also we went on that journey with Sherazard, who was our bracer trainer when we became junior bracers, and she was like one of the more respected ones in our hometown of, what was it called again?
Relent.
Rolent, yeah, in our hometown of Rolent. So we went to Bose and did all this, and then we also meet Olivier, who is a traveling bard from Erebonia, who definitely seems like there's more to him going on than he says, but he is just so freaking charming.
Well, he can be charming, but he also causes a lot of eye rolls for
Sherazard.
really the entire party.
Yeah.
I think Sherazard was the one who found him the most tolerable. Like Estelle was
they
having
had a little drinking
lot
contest.
of it.
It was cute. Also,
Yeah.
I love that. Real quick, that Olivier, like, you know, Estelle has the bow staff. Joshua has dual knives. Sherazard has a whip, and Joshua has the classic weapon of gun.
Olivier. But yeah,
Who did I say?
He has Joshua.
But yeah, Olivier has the classic weapon of gun. So that's just always funny to me. But after we leave that town, we head off to, I don't even remember the name of this city. So it was,
Rouen.
what was that?
Rouen.
Ron? That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Because like,
I
what was
wrote down the city. I wrote down the city order because like I did not want to mix it up.
Cool. And yeah, so we go there and we meet up with this kid. Fuck, what was her name? Hold on, I have it actually written.
Chloe.
Chloe, thank you. We meet this student Chloe. She helps us help with these orphanage kids who. One of the people involved in the orphanage definitely struck a nerve with Joshua remembering something, but we'll get to that later. And so they and we also meet another bracer. Wow, Agate, who is like, he's very bullheaded, but he eventually kind of learns to respect us, and then we all, or respect or just tolerate. I couldn't tell which.
It's kind of like a begrudging respect that's just kind of like, yeah, you two are juniors, you're way out of your element, so leave this to me or whatever. But he's also like he's definitely your senior. He's already a bracer. Apparently he used to be like, you know, kind of a ruffian until Cassius comes along and like, you know, basically puts him in his place. And so probably part of the reason why he is so gruff with us is because it's just like, I still owe it to Cassius for turning my life around, and now I have to like deal with his kids and his, like, you know, his kids, like, you know, seem to be getting into all this like, you know, trouble for him now. It's like, God damn.
Yeah, no, it was definitely interesting. So we do that, and we go through like basically this plot of the mayor to make the orphans even more orphans, just to get this land. Mm-hmm. And the mayor is like tries to kill us with this like orbment that pauses time or something. But then it revealed that the little thing that our father left behind can actually like stop the function of other orbments. Orbments are what we're talking about when we came to like talking about their powers. Orbital is like technology, is kind of what powers this whole society. It's like a magical technology that was discovered like 50 years before the game starts, I believe.
Something like that.
Yeah, so that's what that is, and we should have talked about that. But it's basically the MacGuffin of power in this game.
Yeah. What basically it starts off as a MacGuffin. It's just like, oh well, here's something that it basically like becomes apparent at the end of chapter 2. Oh, this thing has some sort of power. We should probably figure out what we need to do with it. So that basically takes us from the Rouen area to Zeiss, where there's a big orbital factory where we can do research and stuff like that. Before, like, I know we're not getting super into like, you know, like story specifics, but one thing worth noting is that the Sky Pirates earlier on, like, you know, we basically like fight them, and it's just like a group of 3 of them. The older brother, the one in charge, seems to like basically he seems to like be acting very, very callous, and like, you know, his siblings are like, "What's wrong with you?" or doing whatever. After you knock him around a little bit, he seems to come to his senses to the point where he's just like, "Wait a minute, like, you know, what are you talking about? Like, when did we steal like, you know, an entire like airship worth of people?" And they're like, "Are you okay?" Like, so he's basically got like some sort of memory issue going on. And then the mayor of Rouen, like the leader of Rouen, seemingly goes under the same sort of situation where
Right.
like, you know, he's acting way out of character, and then all of a sudden he comes back and it's just like, what? I've been doing stuff like right this entire time, haven't I? And it's just like, no, you've been off the freaking rails, dude. And seemingly what kind of gets introduced in amidst all this too is that there are basically like soldiers clad in black, like black uniforms, who are kind of acting as a shadowy organization behind everything. So part of like what's kind of coming into play is like, you know, how this other faction is starting to like, you know, kind of be all nefarious and stuff like that.
Super spooky.
One thing that's worth noting too is that like, you know, Chloe like at one point like says, "Hey, you guys rush ahead," and then she like, you know, surreptitiously is like has her like Falcon, because she has a Falcon, why not?
He's cool. His name's Sieg.
She writes a note and gives it to him, and the Falcon flies off. And wouldn't you know, like all of a sudden out of nowhere, like, you know, the gosh darn military comes in to help you apprehend the mayor, like, because like cutting him off because you're doing an epic boat chase, and then all of a sudden it's just like, "Oh hi, your boat is no match for our giant airship."
I mean, it's classic rock paper scissors.
Yep, airship, rock paper scissors volcano.
Airship beats boat.
Yep.
Yeah, so like clearly there's a lot more to Chloe than meets the eye there. And after we like do all this, and like, and very clearly like the ruffians were mind controlled as well, or brainwashed or whatever. So like there's something nefarious going on. And we go to Z.
The brainwashing stuff is an element that like, you know, keeps coming back in cool ways. So I definitely wanted to.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. We go to Zeiss to find more about this orbment, and like we meet the professor and his granddaughter Tita, who is a glass cannon. She joins your party, and she's a glass cannon. She's a young inventor girl, very eager to prove herself, and then kind of causes problems. In fact, like one time we had to save her, and it causes a gate to get poisoned, and he's out of commission for the rest of the chapter. And we also meet Zin, who is a traveling martial artist from Calvard, which is another nation. He's a bracer, excuse me. We find out more about him later on, but he is in fact a bracer, and the professor gets kidnapped, and we have to go save him. And it turns out, and who would have kidnapped her but Liberal's own army, or him? Sorry, they kidnapped him, but Liberal's like royal guard, basically showing that they're attempting a coup. And like those black clad men we fought earlier are also part of it.
Yep. Like essentially it's almost like it's almost luck, because a photographer friend from earlier basically has a picture of like, you know, the stronghold where like, you know, the military is housed, and it's just like, wait a minute, that ship in the background, isn't that the same ship that the kidnappers used?
Oh boy, howdy is it.
So basically, this is kind of like, this is also one of those bits where like, you know, it kind of is starting to establish like how the bracers work with the military, or rather do not work with the military. They are two distinct parts, but like while the military of Liberal is like, you know, its own.
Bracers like, are a multinational organization. They aren't just exclusive to Liberal.
Yeah, like you know, Zen is a traveling martial artist, but he's also bracer. He's just more affiliated with the bracers in Calvard than he is with Liberal. So So essentially, like, what it comes down to is just kind of like, well, we can't interfere with the military unless, of course, it's in the people's best interest, which I think essentially they get, like, the factory manager, like, the guy who knows the professor to kind of sign off on, like, yeah, if the professor's been kidnapped by the military, if you can do anything about that, please. Okay, thanks.
Okay, thanks. Bye. So after we rescue Professor and then he's put into hiding, I think Agate joins them to help secure. We then move on from Zace and we kind of narrowly escape the military because they're looking for whoever was involved in that, which was us, but we managed to get out for help. And I can't believe we haven't brought this dude before, but there's this Professor character that keeps popping up. His name is Professor... Why don't I have his name written down?
I think I'm the same way. I didn't actually write it down proper. I've got a characters list here though, so I can have it for you in just a minute.
Yeah, and also the coup is being ran by a guy, Alan, who we met much later on. It's like a leader of like the Royal Guard.
The Intelligence Division?
Yeah, Intelligence Division is who's running that. I just can't believe
that's
I did it.
Adam. That was Adam Richard, by the way.
Alan.
Adam.
Adam? Are you sure?
Yep, I'm looking at it. Professor Alba is the
Okay, Alba's the professor we keep doing, but like
Adam Richard though is the head of the Intelligence Division.
That's Alan.
I'm gonna break your heart here, bud. Whoop.
I can't go to that right now because I'm on the...
I know. Well, break your heart later. It's fine.
I put it right in chat.
Well, now my heart is broken too. Because I mean, this is neither here nor there. Like,
no, it's Alan. I'm gonna say Alan, but yeah, no. Professor Alba is a character who keeps popping up. He popped up in the prologue on top of a tower. He popped up at the school we were helping out at. He pops up now to get us across the checkpoint into the capital city of Grancel, and gets us into there. He keeps popping up all over the place. He's always very nice to us. I think he was shady the whole time. We'll talk more about him later. And so we get to Grancel, and nothing seems wrong. There's a scene where Chloe gets captured by the Royal Army, Alan, and we trying to figure out what's going on, and we find out that the Bracers here also think something's weird's afoot, so they're trying to get access to the palace through the martial arts tournament, but they already have a team. So we decide to try to get into that group, or to try to get into the tournament by joining who else but Zin. Zin's back after a brief absence, and he's joining the martial arts tournament. We join his team, and guess who invites himself onto our group as well? None other than our favorite boy from Chapter 1, Olivier.
Yep, he's back.
Yep, and he brings his gun to the martial arts tournament.
He's also supposed to be in the embassy.
Yeah, the Erebonian
embassy. But he's playing hooky.
He doesn't care. But yeah, so
he doesn't care.
We go through it. We fight some familiar faces. We fight those black-clad soldiers from before in the championship, but they were apparently holding back. They were really holding back. They were really not them. The one dude was really freaking holding back. We fight the bandits from before. Or no, we don't fight them. They fight in another thing. We fight the other Bracer team. But just some nice little fights. You even get to watch the other fights happen, which was kind of cool. And we get invited into the palace where we learn so many things, that basically the queen is being held captive because her granddaughter has been kidnapped.
Yep.
Man, lots of people getting kidnapped. Chloe and this granddaughter. I sure hope they aren't the same person.
Yep. I think there's also hostages that are like involving like some of the other military, because there's at least one other military.
Yeah, we didn't really mention him because he's not that important, but his granddaughter is kidnapped. We learn more about Alan's connection to our father, that our father was a big shot in the Liberalian army. I hope I said that right. Yep. And also that Zinn is a longtime acquaintance of our father, and he's basically been just kind of babysitting us from afar as a favor to him. He's like, yeah, I'll help out if they need it, but I'm not going to tell him why.
Cassius is kind of one of those guys who's just like, do you just have a copy of the script, old man? Like, how do you know everything that's going to happen?
He's just been one step ahead this entire time. Also, that mysterious Black Orbment got taken from us. I forgot to mention that. The mysterious Orbment did get taken from us. But anyway, so we find out all this stuff. We report back to the Bracer Guild, get some help from our reporter friend, rescue the people that were being held prisoner, and then we stage like a full-on attack on the castle from like under the... we get... I don't think anybody really comes back yet except for just Chloe and Sherazard.
Yeah, I mean, basically, like when we go over to rescue like the princess from like, this one villa that...
Oh, by the way, the princess totally was Chloe.
Yeah. Basically, as we're rescuing her, a bunch of people are coming in, and essentially, like, while like the men clad in black are coming in and being like, oh yeah, like, we're going to stop you. Sherazard pops in, like, because she's just kind of out of nowhere from chapter 1 again, or basically helps stop them. Olivier, like, she's bringing Olivier in tow because, like, he basically got separated but came back. So now we have like 6 of our party members. So we split our 6 party members into 2 teams of 3, the boys and the girls, because, like, obviously.
That's how you pick teams.
They did pick the team. So basically, Joshua's team is coming in like from the sewers, like to infiltrate the castle and turn off the defenses. And then Estelle's team is coming in with an airship that I think Chloe can pilot. Chloe basically is to pilot the airship in order to I think, get the queen off the premises or whatever. But I think it just kind of turns into okay, we're just going to go in and rescue her and then fight off that one guy who was holding back in the tournament, Something Fierce, because we tried fighting him there, and technically you get an achievement for beating him.
I don't think an achievement. You just get like points or something. I don't know. You might get an achievement. I don't know. He kicked my ass.
You probably get an achievement. Yeah.
He kicked my ass. He kicked both our asses, and I'm really glad I didn't have to keep trying to beat him. But yeah, so we saved the queen, and then but apparently there's a secret tunnel underneath the palace that Alan went down. He's trying to unlock something big that's going to save give a super weapon for the kingdom to make it so that nobody will ever try fighting him. So of course, what happens? But the last 2 party members show up. Agate and Tita come back and join the party, and then you get to choose your party, go into the final fight, fight all the way down there. You fight a giant robot that awakened, and actually Alan helps you because he wasn't intending that.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Apparently, maybe he's got memory issues too.
Yeah, no, it's very well established afterwards that he was kind of tricked into all this.
Yeah.
And then Cassius comes and saves the day. We saved all of Liberl. We stopped the coup. We saved everybody. And so we're going to go around, get some ice cream. Estelle walks off to get ice cream. Joshua's there alone. We get to talk with some people.
We also got fully fledged into bracers.
Oh yeah, now we got all our gym badges, so now we're full bracers. And
Cassius basically is like, yeah, I have to leave the Bracer Guild in order to take over the military again.
Yeah,
but we have some downtime, and nothing bad is ever going to happen, right?
Yeah, and then Professor Alba walks up to Joshua, is like, cool. Oh, you don't remember me? Let me help you. And then he snaps his fingers. Joshua remembers everything he's ever forgotten, and realize he's basically just been a sleeper agent the entire time from Alba, who does like one of those eyes and hair flips, and now he's like all evil.
Yep.
And basically Alba set up the entire plot of the game, and
has been playing us the entire time. Apparently Joshua's been feeding him information, which is the one way that they've been trying to keep a leg up on Cassius.
Yeah, Cassius was like, they needed to like be rid of him, like have him somewhere else to do this plan.
Yeah. So essentially, like, after Alba basically walks away, like, Joshua is basically there with his memories, and Estelle comes back and it's just like, you okay? And it's just like fine and all that. They basically cut to like a little bit later, and essentially like Estelle, like throughout the game, has kind of been grappling with her feelings for Joshua, because like it basically, obviously there's he's just my brother, like, in terms of like he was adopted and stuff like that. But she starts catching feelings, and of course everyone has to comment on it, which I think that's, I feel like, the weakest part of the gameplay or the story part of it for me, because it was just kind of like,
it was
having everybody like say, oh, it's obvious, and it's just like, okay guys, I get it, sure, whatever. I think it could have been handled a little bit more subtly, but anyway, ultimately, like, she's like basically thinking, oh well, I'm gonna go confess everything to Joshua or whatever. But before she gets a chance to do that, Joshua basically is just like, yeah, so let me tell you the story about a child who became an assassin and killed so many people until suddenly a father figure came in and like, took him in and stuff. And it's very obvious he's talking about himself, and he's like, oh, I have to go now. And Estelle's just like, wait, what? No, you can't. I love you. You can't go. No. And essentially the game ends with Joshua basically like drugging her to knock her out and saying, I've always loved you, but I have to go now.
And Estelle wakes up and is like, all right, I'm going to go find Joshua.
Yep.
And so I have been dying to like continue that cliffhanger. Been a few games in the middle, but like, this game, it was such a good ending, such a good little cliffhanger, and I loved it. But that being said, that was just the quick highlights of the story, because what we really want to get into is the characters.
Yeah.
Because that is quite honestly the most interesting part to me. And and also Steve. Because like Estelle, like, so you want to start with Estelle? That sound like a good spot?
Well, she is the main character, so it makes the most sense to start with her.
True. Estelle's the protagonist. Like, I mean, Joshua's always there, but it's definitely, for most of the game, is much more told from Estelle's point of view. Yeah. I feel like, and she starts off like typical, like, blunt, bubbly, happy-go-lucky martial artist, fighter girl, but like, she's always just so willing to see the best in people. She's always so willing to help people, and like, it's just such a positive force the entire game. And like, just I there was nothing, like, it didn't feel like there was anything like super original or like unique about her character, but it was like just how they did this, like, her as a whole, and like, and how she handled the events through the game was just done so well. There was like she was like, I just feel like fishing, let me go find a fishing rod, and she just goes fishing and chills while they're at this like little resort town. She doesn't get along with Agate. She very much just continuously makes that verbal. She doesn't get along with like some of the ruffians. She's like, I'm more than happy to beat the crap out of them.
She has a little bit of a rivalry with Gisette Capua,
with the
sister of the Sky Pirates or Sky Thieves or whatever. Trading barbs with her a decent bit. Like basically she's very, very her heart is in the right place. Her brain is usually a few steps behind. Not to say that she's
very much not dumb. She's just oblivious.
She's not book smart. She doesn't like to study, but like she's got some gut instincts that work out pretty well.
Yeah. I mean, it's established very early on that she does not enjoy studying that much.
Yeah. I was about to say something else, but that's more second chapter, because I've started the prologue in that, but like I think I can leave it be for that. Then Joshua is like
Joshua's the mirror.
Yeah.
Joshua's just like a complete not a mirror, a foil.
Foil, yeah. So kind of going like since we already kind of know like where he ends up and stuff like that. In the entire game, he presents very much as he knows what to do. He's like, basically like very, very analytical. Like they definitely like play with his character a little bit, where it's just kind of like, oh well, I'm damaged, like, I'm trouble, I have a dark side and all that. But the other thing is he's always very, very reliable in terms of like what he brings to the table. He's very analytical. One thing that they do establish though in the ending when they're like giving him the big reveal, like, oh, you've been a sleeper agent this entire time, is that part of what came off as like, I knew, like, I basically could just observe what was going on. He already kind of just knew some of the stuff like ahead of time. Cause like, they were basically like, oh, well, it's easy to find like, the hidden switch for this, the switch for this hidden passage. It's just like, no, you knew about the hidden passage already, technically.
Right.
Like,
yeah. Like, and like little things. And throughout the game, he always had these like little, like whenever, especially if something would happen to Estelle, he had these flashes of like this just cold, like the cold killer. And like, I thought it was just him being overprotective and stuff, but it was like, his eyes would kind of go blank, and he'd be ready to kill at a moment's notice. And like, and then with the reveal at the end of him being that sleeper agent murderer and everything, that just makes so much sense. Cause like, it was like those extreme emotional spots. Cause he had always had feelings for Estelle, and that just kicked in those old instincts. He was ready just to pounce and just go.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely one of those things too, where it's just kind of like, I think he even refers to Estelle as like, one of the, purest sources of light essentially in his life. So anyone who threatening to take that away from him,
it's like, very much like a light and darkness, yin and yang kind of thing.
Yeah. I found him to be very like, well, like, so Estelle and Joshua are the only characters who are in your party basically the entire way through, outside that section where they basically split off into two different teams. I feel like Estelle, like, her abilities never really mount up too well or whatever. Like, she's got like okay stuff, like, an area attack, a buff, but nothing really too much to write home about. Joshua, his abilities were pretty stellar, like, basically hit all the enemies in a line. And then I think one of his later abilities is just hit every enemy like for a massive damage. I'm just like, holy, okay.
Yeah, sure. No, like I put a item on him that made it so that he built up craft points a lot quicker, and so I was spamming that so much.
I think I was doing that too. So yeah, like those were the two characters you had to keep in there. And even at the final like boss or final area where technically you should be able to switch in anyone, it makes the most sense for those two to like, still be at the party lead, because they are the ones who worked with everyone up to that point. So I really liked what they did with that there. I guess, and like before we move on to like the other playable characters, Cassius, their father, we kind of already covered it, but like he is so hyper competent with everything that he does that literally they had to use Josh's sleeper agent role to help remove him from the picture.
Yeah, he's such a pivotal thing. Apparently, and it's kind of suggested by Alan, is that if Cassius had never left the military, there would never been the coup would have never have happened, because he was just such a pivotal part to the military strength of Liberl. And that's what and we kind of glossed over it, but that's what Alan was trying to do. He was kind of manipulated into it, but Alan was trying to find something in those caves to basically
turn Liberl into a military superpower.
Basically found like a nuke kind of equivalent to give like Liberl military supremacy to stop them from having outside invasions, because that's what he was fearing. That, and like he thought, and he was like, oh, if we have a queen and then another woman ruler, they're going to think we're weak. I'm like, oh, fuck off, dude. But he was kind of manipulated into it. So I'm curious if he does show up in the next game, he survived this, right?
Yeah, he survived.
Okay. If he does show up in the next game, it's been like a hot minute since we played. If he'll be like a different characterization, or what will be used of him. So I am curious about that.
I mean, I didn't spoil myself exactly, but while I was looking at the pages, like I did see. Oh, well, he's the main antagonist in this game, but he does show up in other games.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. I mean, that's very from what I understand of the Trails franchise, that is very kind of typical of it.
Yeah.
But Cassius was just he's kind of like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a good. I couldn't think of a good equivalent for him, but he's just anytime he's around something, the situation goes his way. Like he is like a force to be reckoned with. He just solves problems.
Yeah. Part of the other thing too is that, like, 10 years ago, like, he basically saved the Kingdom of Liberl before, basically, like, using his position in the military to, like, bring victory, like snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. So he's a force to be reckoned with, even outside of, like, his qualifications as a bracer. Probably the most tragic thing, and something that kind of guides his actions, is that he did lose his wife,
and that's why he left the military.
And he did try to save Joshua, because, like, basically Joshua, like, was this little kid assassin who tried to kill him, but he stopped it. And granted, like, I think that, like, that was all basically a ploy to bring Joshua closer to Cassius, like, by the organization that was raising Joshua at the time. But at the same time, like, they basically were like, okay, yeah, Cassius isn't going to be able to just kill this kid or whatever.
No, that attitude he can't.
Well, yeah. So there's a lot of interest. Like, I'm kind of glad that he was removed from the story for the most part, because, like, Cassius so far has been, like, responsible for, like, resolving any conflict that he comes in contact with.
Right.
Sherazard, like, is your first alternate party or first party member to come on. She's basically a teacher for Estelle and Joshua. She was trained by Cassius as well.
There wasn't too much in the way of characterization in her, I feel. Like,
essentially,
she's a competent bracer. She likes to drink. She's like, she does tarot, and she's very, like, grateful and appreciative of how Cassius has trained in her and, like, given her this new life.
Yep.
But, like,
I think she used to be a part of the circus.
Yeah, but outside of that, I don't feel like there was, like, she didn't really have an arc.
No, not too much.
I mean, you could argue that most of the characters in this game don't have, like, a full arc outside of Joshua and Estelle.
Yeah, definitely not.
Maybe Chloe, but that's it.
Sherazard does know that Olivier is a little bit more than what he is presenting himself as.
Yeah, like, always.
So she's not naive at all. Like,
no, Sherazard can definitely, like, cut through the bullshit.
Yeah. Speaking of Olivier, so basically barred from Erebonia or whatever, but, like, given the fact that he's kind of, like, holed up in the embassy in chapter 4 a decent bit, like, there's definitely a lot more to him than meets the eye. He basically just kind of treats everything very whimsically, like, essentially, like, I think he first gets in trouble, like, he gets put into prison because he drank, like, a wine, like, a bottle of wine, like, from the place he was performing at. That was super expensive. And it's just like, oh, what? It was like, the currency is Mira, and it's just like, oh, well, it's like 15,000 Mira. No, more like 15 million Mira or something crazy like that.
It's like, whoop.
Yep.
But he does have musical talent. It is pointed out he does have musical talent, because when they meet him later on in the final chapter, he is playing the piano quite well.
He does like to flirt a lot, and he's like, I think he's bisexual, because I think he flirts just as much with Estelle as he did Joshua, or Joshua as he did Estelle, technically, I guess is the best way to put it. But even regardless of that, like, I'm very curious to see where they might go with him, like, in other games,
or if they, like, because it definitely seems like there is more to him. So I'm, like, curious if, like, more will be kind of shown of him.
Yeah.
or what that more to him is, because like you mentioned, Charizard kind of saw that there was something more. So I'm curious if Trails in Sky 2 will like reveal that something more, which I kind of feel like it will.
Yeah. Then there's Chloe. Chloe is a princess.
The princess of
Presenting
Light
as a student. Presenting as a student, though. So definitely as the princess, that explains a lot of like, some of the connections to the military and this and that. Did the students know that she was the princess?
I don't think so. I don't think they only ever called her Chloe, and they never hinted at there being anything more to her.
I think Dean Collins and probably Matron Teresa might know.
That makes sense.
Matron Teresa being like the head of the orphanage nearby.
Yeah.
And Dean Collins being the head of the school, who's the de facto lead. And he's kind of the de facto representative of the region in Chapter 4.
After you take out the mayor.
Chapter 3. After you take out the mayor, so.
Yeah, so like I don't think the students ever know. The dean probably knew. I don't know if the matron did.
Yeah.
But, and then we had Agate, who, like we mentioned, he was just bracer. He used to be a ruffian. Got made into it. Like, he did have a little bit of an arc where he kind of, like, was becoming more of a big brother figure to Tita.
Yeah.
Because
that's definitely a thing. I mean, he's got a dead little sister as it is. And, so she's kind of filling that role, like, as a surrogate kind of.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. But he definitely, because he really did not like Estelle Joshua at all, but he kind of like, as they kind of kept proving themselves to him, he warmed up to him more and more to the point of like he was okay with like working alongside them.
Essentially, like the very first thing he does, like when you're kind of getting in out of your depth, is that he's just kind of like, okay, you guys are off the case. I'm taking over from here. I've been working on this for too long. I don't want any rookies.
There's nothing you can do about it.
And like literally does pull that rank. He's kind of like, this is what I want, and this is the way I'm going to have it, because like, you are not you're not ranked up to the point where it's whatever. But that also lets you like do some other stuff while it takes a lot of the heavy lifting. And again, I think part of the reason why he's so gruff is because it's not necessarily because you're junior bracers, but because you're Cassius's kids.
Yeah, and also you are kids.
Yeah, he owes Cassius and as well, and that's one reason why they explain that he's a gruff guy, because he still owes it to Cassius, or thinks he owes it to Cassius to repent or whatever. So yeah, there's a little bit of that going on. So he takes over for that, and then when you get over to Zeiss, essentially you get Tita into your party, who is the younger kid who basically becomes like the little sister for Joshua and Estelle. And basically they're just like, nope, you're pretty much our little sister if you want to be. And she's like, oh, okay, sure. She's cool. I liked her in battle because she had a spread attack, or an area of effect attack, because she
cannon.
That's why I didn't use her for the final area. But whenever I had her, and I was just like,
final area.
Olivier and Agate.
I think I used because of course you had to have Joshua and Estelle. I think I used Chloe and Zen, and I 100% did that because Chloe was like hardcore healer, and Zen had a Kamehameha.
See, the funny thing is Olivier had a craft that was a healing ability, so I just spammed that.
Fair. I just liked having the Kamehameha.
Yeah. Well, Agate was pretty cool because he basically had a self harm ability that would it would reduce his HP by 30%, but it would give him 50 CP. So you could spam his abilities a little bit more. And when he joins you, he has 2,000 HP when neither Joshua nor Estelle has broken 1,000.
Right. Yeah. And also,
and I'm just like,
while we're mentioning like that, it's worth noting that you don't really need to even be above like your 30s, level 30s in this game to beat it.
I think I wound up at level 39.
Yeah, you're in your 30s.
Yeah.
Yeah, like something like that. Because like, I mean, this, from what I understand, this game and second chapter were meant to be one game, but like they just kind of had to split it. So I'm curious if the levels carry over.
They do.
Well, that's fun.
I can confirm that it was basically like I loaded up second chapter and it's just like, oh, we found some old data, and I'm just like, yeah, load that.
I do enjoy that with games.
Yeah. I was actually probably going to load up another file at some point or another, and not load it up to see what I wound up with.
Man, I was worse off for like loading up all my save files. So we got to, I think the end of like the playable characters, right?
Zen's
like a homie.
Yeah. I mean, he's a bracer. A job requirement of being a bracer is being very, very resourceful. And one thing that he knows how to read a situation. Granted, Cassius also gave him a heads up, like, hey, by the way, there's a martial arts tournament that you can maybe use in order to get involved at the Queen's ceremony thing, because like, there's going to be a lot of eyes there, and you might be able to connect with my kids who are probably going to be doing stuff. If you can you watch over them? All that fun stuff.
But don't make it obvious.
Yeah, don't make it obvious. Definitely he owes it to Cassius he's reverent of Cassius as well, because like, he asked me to do this.
Who isn't in this game?
Yeah. One scene of his that I love is that at some point or another he basically comes out of the room and sees like Estelle and Joshua, like, they snuck out of like their assigned chambers for quite a while, and they're being questioned by like one of the intelligence division officer things, and he basically comes in and he doesn't know what's going on, but he still comes up and it's just like, hey, did you guys get the food I asked you to get? Like, and basically when he gets back to the room, it's just like, well, that was close, wasn't it? And they were like, he's just like, yeah, so you want to tell me what's going on, because something's going on. And I just love a character who has your back and is just so funny about it.
He was great. I think that's all the main characters. There's a couple of minor characters that I don't think we really need to get into. That
the biggest one was Alan.
Yeah, Alan, but like his was
as the antagonist.
We kind of covered him and talked about everybody else, because like he was just like, oh, I just want to like make this country stronger. He was one of those. He was a bad guy doing it for what he thought were just reasons. So like I do find that those kind of villains are much more compelling, because it's not just like, oh, I'm evil, I want to destroy the world. No, he was doing what he was doing because he thought it was the best move for his country.
Yeah. And until it's possibly revealed that he was amnesia.
Well, not amnesia, but like manipulated. Brainwashed, yeah. And then you have Alba, who like, I feel like we can't really have a good analysis on him yet, because like we just got this other side to him.
Our analysis. I don't trust this guy, and that's why I don't trust that guy.
Yeah, pretty much. So let's see. Like, I think that's pretty much all we wanted to talk to about the game as a whole. I think the only
other character, like the only other thing I was going to say, other characters. Each Bracer Guild had like a main person. They were all fine. Each area basically had a main. Like each city had like a representative, like a mayor.
They existed and they were cool, but they didn't. They didn't really have any arcs.
They showed up in chapter 3, kind of as a callback or whatever, but nothing really to write home about. There was another Bracer team. One of them did also have the amnesia thing. So again,
and he was the one that sent out the ornament in the first place.
Ah, yep, that's correct.
Kurt, I think his name is Kurt.
I think you're right. I think it was Kurt. I think Grant was the leader of the other bracers, though.
Maybe I can't remember. But yeah, so
whatever.
With all those do you have any fun predictions for the second chapter? Because I'll be honest,
the second chapter is going to start off where the first chapter ended.
I will kick you from this conversation.
But no, for serious, like I think before the end of the second chapter, we're definitely going to be running into Joshua. I think they were kind of leaving it up where Joshua like might actually be antagonistic to you, like, and so like he's basically leaving so he doesn't have to fight you. But I think he is going to be still a good guy, but he's not going to want to work actively with you. Like,
I feel like he's very much going on a mission to try to kill the people that manipulated him, and he doesn't want you to be part of that. So that's why I feel like his journey's going to go. As for like what the overall like Alba's plot is, I cannot even begin to fathom.
I mean, I think like he had to have known what was basically in the sealed area, like, you know, the crazy amount of technology that was down there, and I definitely think like
that kind of technology is what's behind this.
Yeah, like I think he's definitely like pushing to bring what once terrorized everything back to the forefront. Like I think he's looking for.
Interesting.
Well, because he shows up at the top of the temple, at the top of like the first tower, and I think those towers are like they didn't really make anything of it like in this one, but like
you just get some cool weapons and stuff. Nothing special.
Yeah, so
that means I'm gonna have to go back in those towers, doesn't it? I did not like those dungeon designs, but yeah. So I know I said we want to have some predictions, but like I don't know where this can go. The ending of that game was just so bonkers. But so I feel like the last question I really have is if you had to kind of just summarize this game and just kind of like bring in some of its key points to recommend it to somebody, what would you say?
You looking for?
So like,
are you looking? Well, I was basically going to do an elevator pitch.
No, not like an elevator pitch, but like basically, so like what I would say is, so like the game has like very classical JRPG elements. But it's still kind of done in a newer style. Kind of like, I know how like I described it when I asked you if you want to play this. It's kind of has like a little bit of both worlds in it, and like the music's great, amazing story. This game was much more about the world building, I feel, than it was like the story it was telling. Because like I feel like I got so much more world building, and I understand this world more than like the events that happened. Because the events that happened up until like the last couple chapters were very light. They're very just kind of typical adventure. And then stuff started hitting the fan in the last couple chapters, but like we still had this great world we were like kind of introduced to, and there feels like there's so much more potential in this world to explore, and it just feels like how they wanted it. It feels like the start of an epic story.
I think one thing that's going to click for us at some point or another when we're going through one of the other games, either second chapter or like one of the other like Trails series, is basically like there's probably going to be some moment that's mentioned or whatever where and like, you know, we as veterans of the series will be like, wait a minute, like, you know, they're mentioning Erebonia. Wait a minute, Erebonia is involved with that? Like something
Cold Steel's the Erebonia
huge and shifting arc. Or whatever. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm just thinking like, you know, they're doing a good job of setting up the world as is, like, but like it's still kind of a focus on Liberl, and like we're looking at everything probably through a lens like that. Probably as soon as we get to like another game, like in another area, but the same world, the same on the continent of Zemuria, because I did see that finally. There's probably going to be something there where it's just like, wait a minute, like I know this thing from like, you know, what was mentioned in this other game. Okay, this is suddenly starting to get a little bit more interesting. And what's cool is that like someone who might have started, like, say you start with Trails of Cold Steel or whatever, and he's like, or playing through it normally, you don't pick up on that kind of context.
Well, the thing is, like, it can be done in reverse too. Like you mentioned, like when we're playing, I mean, we're gonna definitely talk about this a lot more later on. But like Sea of Stars and Messenger, I played Messenger more so after I beat Sea of Stars, so I was kind of getting all those references in reverse, and I thought that was a really fun experience.
Yeah.
So like it can go both ways, because like as you like if you play Cold Steel first and then play Sky, you could like get those connections from later on, like kind of like in a foreshadowing kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think unless you have anything more you want to say on the game.
Agate and Olivier were the best party members to bring along. There was no question. I refuse to take any questions about it.
Wow. But thanks for everybody listening. Yeah, I'm just gonna cut after that. Thanks for everybody listening, and this has been the third, I think I established at the beginning of the episode, third episode of Chewing the Breeze. This has been our thoughts on Trails in the Sky. We're definitely going to be starting up, and like hopefully won't take us a fucking year to beat Trails in the Sky second chapter, because I want to get through all these games, because I kind of want to be on the launch hype for Daybreak.
Yeah,
I really want to.
I could agree with that. I mean, basically, like we do need to space these episodes out a little bit. Like,
I'm not saying we can play through all the games straight and then kind of play them and do. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We got time, but
yeah.
Until then, again, like Doug, you can follow me on like a lot of things like Doug Ventures. It's probably in the links and stuff when I post this on YouTube's.
Yes, indeed. My name was Steve, and my foe's the Toaster. I can be found at twitch.tv /myfoesthetoaster. I'm streaming about twice a week at this point, plus whenever we decide to do an episode of this. And do you want to go ahead and talk about, or just mention like what we're going to be talking about next time?
Next time on Chewing the Breeze, we will be talking about we wanted to talk about Sea of Stars, but I wanted to give a little break, 'cause it's going to be another dense episode like this one was. So we're going to just kind of talk about like some roguelike games and like elements about that. So because I thought that'd be kind of fun. Probably like a focus on Hades and stuff like that.
Yep, definitely. If anyone has any thoughts about the game and you haven't played it, or if you want to get into a roguelite that's very, very well done, we recommend Hades. That's probably going to be the main focal point of our roguelite discussion, but I'm thinking we'll be talking about like more than just Hades itself, just basically the entire idea behind roguelikes, like why they work, what they could be maybe doing better, that kind of stuff. We'll just chew the breeze about it. How about that?
All right. Well, hope everyone has a good one.
Yep. Take it easy, y'all. Thank you.